Tears for Fears was like the headliner for that. And they were singing a cover of Creep of Radiohead at the time. And I remember him saying, I don't belong here. And he was like, and neither do you. We're like, don't say that.
The Brits, man, you gotta love him. We've been joined by Maya Rudolph, and she's very high right now.
Quite high. I'm quite high. Yeah, I'm not that tall, so this is extraordinary.
You're larger than life.
I feel larger than life in a lot of ways.
I'm in the presence of one of Time Magazine's most influential people in the world.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Hey, thanks.
That's a nice thing, isn't it?
It is. You always think about that, like Time Magazine cover, that kind of thing.
When's it going to happen?
You're like, who, me? No, it's lovely. And then you read the list, and it's staggering, all those special people being celebrated.
Styled
And it's so lovely to be celebrated.
I think so.
I think it's nice to do work that you love. Being celebrated is a whole other side of it that doesn't necessarily come with it. So it's quite pleasant.
We also tend to be a little embarrassed when we get celebrated. I think sometimes it's like it's in the human condition for a lot of people at least to shrug it off and be like, oh shucks, it's cool.
Humble,
be humble. And humility has its place, but every now and then it's nice to reflect on your own journey, even just for a split second, and say, cool, I've landed somewhere kind of impactful, and it means something to me, and I respect that, and I like myself, and I'll take that into the future.
It's very nice, especially at this time in my life. I feel like I've lived a long life so far, and it's nice to appreciate and be appreciated. It's not, especially in comedy, you're not always... People don't always like what you do, you know?
Yeah, you set yourself up for a fall. I think that's what most people forget. They think that comedians walk on stage and the laughter is automatic. It's the opposite. You have to earn it.
Yeah. And I come from a lot of live performance in comedy, which things tank. Sometimes things tank. I don't know if I can curse.
Fuck yeah.
Okay. I guess that's a yes. But we used to have this thing on Saturday Night Live that we just, for fun, we'd call it Shit Can Alley, where if something was in a really bad place where the audience couldn't really see you and the laughs tanked, it was usually a Shit Can Alley piece.
What's worse, being on stage when things tank, but knowing you have the tools to move on, or being on set when a scene's not working and you feel that everyone around you knows it?
Oh, it's horrifying, but when it's not working, but it makes you laugh really hard. And I think sometimes it makes it a little bit funnier. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal.
What was the transition like into working on camera and doing? I know Saturday Night Live is a nice transition between the two because it feels like stand-up, but it also feels like it lives forever. I've
never done stand-up, and it's weird. I didn't realize that there was a difference in comedy. I was in college, and I remember thinking, I know I'm going to be a comedian. And I really always was, I gravitated towards Saturday Night Live. I gravitated towards sketch comedy and improv. I used to see shows at the Groundlings when I was in my teens. And I really thought, I'm going to be there with all those people because I liked seeing everyone together, the ensemble of it. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to be a comedian. I'd better start writing material. And it was terrible. And I quickly realized being a comedian is not just one flavor. There are several flavors. And it's also really interesting later on, especially when you get into an environment like Saturday Night Live. Some people are stand-ups and some people are sketch performers. And the voices are very different. And the pieces end up becoming very different.
I feel like if you're doing stand-up, there is an element of, how do I put this in?
Nudity?
Very much so.
Yes.
No, but actually, like there's an emotional nudity to it required, 100%.
That's why I don't do it.
Yeah.
There is no part of me that is interested in revealing every single layer of my soul to those that do not know me. I like to keep some of those clothed.
Yeah.
But then I go the extreme opposite. I wear armor. So all of my characters are huge, and I always say it is a form of drag for me. I really, I think that my goal is somewhat the art of drag, is to be larger than life, the most female. And it's just wonderful to wear armor because your sweet little sensitive soul gets protected.
Gets preserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's also this moment in your life when you're wearing the armor successfully. People appreciate the identity you've developed and who you are to us, that we start to confuse the issue. I see it all the time in the arts with songwriters. I see people write songs and then everyone starts to dissect the lyrics and try to figure out who it's about. And then I'll talk to them off the record and they're like, they just couldn't be more wrong. And you have to let that go a little bit. Was it a bit challenging to realize that some people don't understand that they're different things?
It's true. I mean, listen, I do the same thing. And I grew up in a time where, listening to a record was listening to a vinyl record. And I would, lay on the floor listening to it, staring at the cover art and trying to dissect every single word and figure out and read between the lines. And
Same.
so I do like that game, and I think I can actually do it still. I mean, I was just doing it on the car ride here, listening to Cowboy Carter. I
was going to ask you what you were listening on the ride here.
Oh, Cowboy Carter.
So good.
It's exceptional.
It's so funny to me how everyone thinks it's a country record. It's not. It's like a rebel record. To me, it's like it's literally like an outlaw record. She's an outlaw on that album to me.
Well, also, she doesn't have to say a word about how wrong things are, and she's using her artistry to do that. That's huge, and also really commendable for such a big artist. It's very difficult to put yourself out there and say, I know I'm great, and it's still never going to be good enough in certain situations. And it takes a lot, especially today. I feel that creating art today is the most scrutiny I've ever witnessed.
It's the biggest risk, I think you can almost... It's one of the biggest risks. I don't want to create a hierarchy of challenge, but it is backing yourself in a world this unknown with this many distracting factors and how hard is no defined channels to be able to carve out your place in the world.
Yes.
Such a risk on it. You have to just back yourself so hard now.
And who doesn't care what people think? And sometimes, even though you don't want to see what people say or don't want to read reviews, you see them by accident. It never feels good. It never feels good because most people are not creating art to polarize and make people dislike them. That's not what they're doing. But if something is coming from you and people are blatantly saying in your face, you don't belong here or you can't do that. Yeah. I think for me, back to the Cowboy Carter album, which I could spend this entire time talking about, I think what I really... what hit home for me was this idea of not belonging, of being somewhere and people saying, you don't belong here. That for me was the largest element that when I listen to the album, I feel it somewhere in my body. It's cracking open a little bit of a shell that probably will always be a shell and will never go away. Because when is this world going to be fair? Never.
I don't think it is.
No, it won't. And so I just think using her voice and her power to talk about it is huge. And it's really making space for other people. And I find that to be so incredibly beautiful. Mm-hmm. On top of the fact that I think some of the songs are some of the most beautiful vocal work I've heard in years.
Yeah, there's a few songs on there that were co-writes with a guy called Ryan Beatty. Have you heard his album?
I keep looking him up because of this record. I just got the chills. That song, Projector.
There's an album that came out last year by Ryan that has been just the word of mouth album of recent times. Like, incredible how many people are just talking about this record. And Ryan is such a sensitive soul. It's safe to say. He's very dedicated to the concept that the album will do what the album's going to do. And he really doesn't do much, if anything. But somehow it finds its way in Beyonce's hands, and she's like, this guy's really special.
What's greater? When even, in the work that I do, sometimes someone will compliment something that I've done, and I'll say, I got that from them, from this person. This is my idol. This is my inspiration. And whether it's somebody brand new that's exciting me or somebody that I grew up watching, that's what it's about.
I was just, this is a great drop, but it's such a good one. I'm going to drop it anyway. I literally was waiting to speak to you, and I get these phone calls every now and then from Elton John. It's just brilliant. It's just life is just brilliant. He just calls me out of the blue. It's like, all right, darling, how you doing? What do you think of Chapel Roan? I'm like, Chapel Roan's brilliant. He's like, I played her first. It's like he's weirdly competitive with me about music. It's just amazing.
Because he obviously looks to you as someone who...
He can bully in a friendly and wonderful way.
Well, that's that's very English, but somebody that he respects.
It's true.
That's the best way to have those conversations. It's exciting to him, I bet.
It is very exciting to him, and he lives and breathes by, yes, of course, he's written one of life's great songbooks, but he also gets the biggest thrill out of doing what you just said, which is telling people what inspires him, what influences him, what they should listen to.
I think that's a big part of it. I know for myself, I was saying all last year, Ryan Gosling's performances in Barbie is the most exciting thing I've seen in years, and it inspires me. And I know a great performance when I want to do that. When I see something and I say, like, I want to do that, I want to be that, I want to be Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
That's when I know that's an incredible performance. And if I'm not inspired, I'm not making something that's interesting to other people because I'm not inspired by it. So I have to have a little bit of a boner in order to create. And if you don't have that inspiration, it's really hard to inspire others.
It's hard though, because sometimes you have to wait for that. If you're going to trust the process and let the universe and let the spiritual guide come to you and tell you, hey, this is something you need to do, you have to have patience and trust the process. And that's a discipline, is it not?
It is. And I think most people that create know that it doesn't come all the time. You either tap into it or you don't. And there's some clunky ass mistakes along the way. I think you get more comfortable with them the more you're used to being on that road.
Well, without them, you don't learn how to say no.
No.
Right? You need to say a few bad yeses to figure out what no really means.
I think I'm well versed in saying so many bad yeses, and you realize I'm not comfortable, I'm not happy, therefore I'm not performing well, I'm not myself. This is an environment that's stifling. You learn from all those mistakes. Absolutely. And it's so hard, especially as a parent. You want to set your kids up to learn those things for themselves, but it's so hard to allow them to make those mistakes.
That is the hardest thing.
So painful.
As a parent, I think that is probably the great learning, is how to guide and take your hands off the wheel as well.
It hurts more to watch them hurt. That hurts way more.
How old are your kids now?
Because I don't remember half of it.
Yeah.
I've got an 18, 14, 12, and 10.
Oh, wow. You're in it. Okay, this is brilliant.
I'm full on.
You've got the whole spectrum of age in terms of identity development. You've got the 10-year-old just watching his or her siblings, her siblings figure it out and go, okay, they seem to be able to move in their own terms.
Yep.
So maybe I can do this ahead of schedule.
Exactly.
And you got the 18-year-old probably about to start coming home again, probably figuring out life's actually pretty good, and I gave you a pretty hard time, and actually my parents kind of rad and things. But I'll give me 2 more years and I'll be yours all over again on my terms.
Which, I mean, the human brain, it's quite fascinating. The frontal lobe development, which is happening in my house right now.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of patience.
Do you know what I learned me and my wife, because we have a 17 and 15-year-old, and they know everything, obviously.
Yeah.
And
yeah, when did I wake up just wrong?
Most of the time, it's based in absolute nothing. They're like, no, it's not how it is. Da, da, da. And if you actually stop to listen and let your ego just subside for a second, it's utter bullshit what they're saying most of the time.
But it's so healthy.
They need to do it.
Yes.
Otherwise, they don't turn out the way they're supposed to. And that first phase of identity formation is brutal on them. So you got to laugh, really. I mean, that's the thing that drives them really crazy, is when you have a little laugh behind their back. That fucking... No,
I can't do that.
Well, you can, they can't see it.
I just do it. Yeah, they can't see
They can't see that. I'm having so much fun already. I knew I would. I was so grateful that this opportunity even came our way.
For me too.
I really love the opportunity to talk to people in the arts on a broader scale, and I love that I found myself in this music room. It's my passion, and it's what I love to do. But I know that music is a magic that informs everything, and I know it informs you.
Yeah,
and it always has, both in your upbringing and the way that you've adapted it to yourself through your own identity formation. So, what, in the most simplest terms, before we sort of get into how it's worked through your work and talk about Loot and all the things that are exciting in your life right now, what is the fundamental principle that you draw from music, the fundamental magic? How does it affect your life?
I was raised by musicians, and music was normal in my house, and that's a funny thing to be normal, because it is magic. And it's not that we took it for granted, my brother and I. It's just that it was what is. It was life. So, having musicians come over and play music or talk about music or put on cool records. And I just thought that's what life was.
And can I just say one thing? And I say it with the greatest of respect, because I understand the guidelines of this conversation, but it would be churlish of me not to find a way to thoughtfully and with heart express my gratitude, in particular to your mother and the records that she made.
Thank you.
I can't
Yeah,
tell you
I
enough
agree.
how they changed me and my friends' lives, and how I went into a record store and said, and I'll leave it here. I went to a record store and I went to Seattle on Monday to spend the day with Pearl Jam. I had half an hour to spare, and I went to a random record store. I don't even know what it's called, and I asked the same question I ask everyone. I'm like, do you have any Minnie Riperton, any Rotary Connection at all on vinyl? Because I'm obsessed with getting it. So it's
I can get you all of it. but I and listen, I do it
family
too.
discount rate, and I appreciate that.
This is like a 15%.
But I understand it comes up a lot. But I just wanted you to know that you're in a house of music, and
Yeah.
it would be weird for me to avoid it, even just briefly.
No, and it's where it belongs. It's so nice to talk about someone who I think is from a generation of real musicians.
Yeah.
I was raised to believe that real music is music. And, my mom had this almost supernatural gift. Her voice was otherworldly.
It floats like no other voice I've ever heard in my life.
And it's just, it's incomparable to this day. Even her vocal range, which some people have, it's the way that she sang that just is different.
It's actually the restraint. It's actually the respect that she had for the note, and not the desire, as a fan, just as a listener, to present her voice above what the song was required.
I agree.
She would let the song breathe and find a way to guide it and nurture that experience as a whole.
And, she also this was not my goal to talk about Cowboy Carter all day, but
No, please.
I was also in awe as an adult looking back on her career, how different she was for what was considered an R&B artist. She just did her own thing.
She did her own thing.
There wasn't anyone else like her. There's never really ever been anyone else like her. And that's completely ingrained in me. And I never questioned it. I never questioned that she wasn't like the other R&B moms.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was just different and her own thing.
And everybody knew it. I mean, everybody then and subsequently still today knows it. And I really, such a gift that she gave the world and the music that lives on. So
it's pretty incredible. And it's incredible now as an adult looking back. I mean, she was 31 when she died, and the amount of music that she put into the world and the ability that came with her voice, it's staggering. She was, she grew up in Chicago, and she was singing at Chess Records, I think, before she was actually signed there. She was a receptionist, and so she would run upstairs and sing backup on stuff. That's how I learned. My dad told me later she's singing on Rescue Me, the Fontella Bass song, because,
I didn't know that.
yeah, he was just like, oh, we got this money out of the blue for this song. I didn't realize your mom sang on it. She sang on all kinds of stuff. And that was just the nature of it. And it was an outlet for her because she was wanting to do her own stuff.
And what do I do with this? I have this. I know it's in there. I know I've got it. What do I do with it? I don't have no one's charted a path for me here. So let me just run upstairs
She just
and help out.
charted her own. Yeah. And she and my dad were just such a team, like a songwriting team. And there's, such an unconventionally beautiful pairing, and they made this thing. They just created it. And I don't know. I never questioned how singular it was. When you're a kid,
Of course.
it's embarrassing,
What's
right?
mom and dad?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially that one song when she's like talking about it. I'm like, don't talk about it.
I know the song. I know the song. I know the
So
song.
embarrassing.
I know the song. It's like you could put the meaning about 5 different meanings on that word, but we know what that word means.
Yeah. So embarrassing.
I never thought about what it must have been like
Oh
to
my
be a kid when
God.
that song comes on. Because I must have been a little bit older than you the first time I heard it, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I think I'm still oh my godding.
It's mom and dad.
Yeah. But it's good. It gets, but yeah, I
beyond
know. And then you get like one tequila in me, and I'm like, my family's like, oh my God. But like, I get on my high horse. I'm like, musicians used to be musicians.
You're not wrong, though. You're not wrong. It's a different level.
It's a different level. And I'm an MTV baby.
Yeah,
So I
same.
loved the visual expression of music that came into our lives and completely transformed it. I was talking about Madonna earlier. I'm such a Madonna head from the 80s. Those videos changed my life.
Yeah.
And the way that she transformed herself every single time visually, it just rewired my brain.
She was so authentic. And may I just say, thank you so much for being so generous then in that conversation. It was really cool to have that conversation.
It's my pleasure because I think it's exactly what I was saying about Elton John.
Yeah.
He knows you know.
Yeah.
So it's my pleasure.
Madonna, just unbelievable. The authenticity that she had at every stage of her career. Like, okay, you're literally homeless running around the streets of New York trying to figure it out, hustling your way into sessions to make your name. You know what the fire inside is going to do. But then she gets successful and she's like, by the way, I'm mad successful now.
Yeah.
She's not trying to still be that person like back in the day. She has written her story and told it with authenticity every step of the way.
And that's what's so fascinating is like here I can say about her, you know, I was there for every step of the way of like, you know, the Truth or Dare, I was saying all the concerts I went to in the 80s, the Blonde Ambition, Truth or Dare, you know, and every hair color, every Jean-Paul Gaultier, Bustier, every single...
Did you go on cosplay, Madonna cosplay? Were you like full hair out the whole thing? I love that.
I mean, I wanted to be blonde. I mean, this afro would have just fallen out, but... All of it. The red lipstick, I mean, when I was 14, it was all bustiers and red lipstick.
Can you try to remember what it was like being in that room, and by the way, concerts back then, a lot of them really were, you go with your parents step out of the way and you hang out with your friends. I felt like Madonna was one of the first eras where teenagers were allowed to sort of go to concerts with each other, see things with each other and feel safe. It's like, okay, this is a business now. She's putting on a show.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's get our Coca-Cola, our Pepsi, and let's go watch this show. So what was it like being on the precipice of that and knowing that actually fan clubs were changing shape in real time?
I mean, I'm trying to think the minute you said the thing about parents like letting you go, I was like, I don't think I ever went with my friends. Like my parents took me to see Duran Duran, and when I was in 5th grade, I got to sleep in the next night. It was a school night.
They still got it, by the way. I saw them at the bowl last year.
I did too. Of course I did.
What about that moment when Simon, he's so panto now. Did you see him get up there and he's just like,
he was fabulous.
I love him, but he's like so funny. He's like, would you like to meet the band?
Yes!
Your wish is my command.
It's the exact same thing.
He said this amazing thing where he goes, all right, up next, the Reflex, you lucky people.
And it's the same thing as on like the live recordings that I memorized in 6th grade. It's all the exact same shit.
Seven and the Ragged Tiger. Do you remember the video when they was playing on stage and the big fountain comes down and it's the worst graphics of all time and the front row gets splashed by water and someone's just throwing bottles of water at them. Reflex.
Oh my God. I used to do the moves of, I really wanted to be a backup singer when I was growing up.
Right.
Like BJ Nelson, I believe, was one of the backup singers.
Yeah.
And I would do her moves. Ta la la la.
Yeah.
Ta la la la. Yeah.
La la. Oh, who was your favorite member?
Nick Rhodes, of course.
Of course.
I used to sign I told him this at the concert. He was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, because
he did not appreciate that. I used to sign my name, Maya Rhodes, because he would take the R and make the leg of it real long, and then you cross the H with it.
That is adorable.
Maya Rhodes.
You got Duran Duran. The amount of times I've tried to give John Taylor a compliment, he's just like, well, thank you very much.
Oh, but he's like the coolest. I mean, you talk to him now, he's just like the coolest guy because he was handsome from the jump.
But you're also, he very much was.
But I was a Nick girl from the beginning. I never swayed. Like I never faltered.
You're also dealing with a particular brand of British rock star and pop star that really doesn't know how to, they don't take compliments very well.
No, God, no.
So I went to see Tears for Fears last year at the Bowl and got to know Kurt from the band a little bit. And I sent him a text on the day. He's a big Tears for Fears fan. And
they're incredible.
You're going to love this. I said, dude, beyond excited for the Bowl tonight. And he replied, I'm thinking of going myself.
You're reminding me of a crazy experience years and years and years and years ago. One of my first jobs out of college, I played with a band called The Rentals. Mm-hmm. I toured with them. I was never technically a member, but it was Matt Sharp from Weezer's band, and they needed people to go on the road. Mm-hmm. So I went. But it was like, it was a job. It was like my first job out of school. And I was just kind of looking around like, this is great.
Yeah, that's 90s shit.
Yeah, it was so 90s. So we played all of those festivals. So it was, like us and No Doubt and Oasis. And there was one, I think we were in Texas.
Yeah.
Because that band, the Toadies, played. Remember the Toadies?
I remember the Toadies. It was like Billy Corgan's favorite band. He took them out on the road for like 3 tours.
It was like the height of it.
Yeah.
So this is probably, 95, I'm guessing?
Yeah,
96, 97?
Yeah.
And Tears for Fears was like the headliner for that. And they were singing a cover of Creep of Radiohead at the time. And I remember him saying, I don't belong here. And he was like, and neither do you. Don't say that.
The Brits, man, you gotta love them.
So self-deprecating.
I mean, look at Damon Albarn last weekend at Coachella. You're never gonna see us again, so you may as well sing the fucking thing.
Did he say that? We did. I have a big affection for Damon. We did. The Rentals played with Blur, and that really cemented. That was a pretty exceptional time. Like for a month, we got to open for them.
Well, I don't mind telling you because you're a fan. I had dinner with him last night. He's a very old friend of mine, and I was like, what about the Coachella thing? He was like, oh fucking hell, man! I didn't have a fucking tantrum, all right? I was just saying, I don't know how many more gigs in America Blur's gonna do, so you may as well sing the fucking thing. And the press gets hold of it, and fuck, it's like 90s all over again.
By the way, he's not even mad. He's just British.
He's just British. Everything is that loud.
I love him. I love Damon so much.
He's
I love
brilliant.
Blur. Yeah.
Gorillas, the whole creative.
No,
of
he's
it,
incredible.
Everything about it. So you move through into comedy. You find your voice. You find who you are. Music is in you, but you've chosen a path where you want to express yourself differently. How does music influence and become a part of how you work?
I think I never really learned how to shake it. And at first I thought I had to shake it, and I realized, it's just a part of who I am.
Why did you feel you had to shake it?
Probably just in terms of not relying on what I already knew. And
Yeah.
I think deep down, if I'm really psychoanalyzing myself, I wanted to set myself apart in that way, that I wasn't a rebellious kid. And, losing a parent when you're young, you really look out for the other parent. So I never did anything bad that I wanted an asymmetrical bob, but my dad was like, well, I'm not going to upset my dad. I never pierced my nose. We're in this together. And so I think that was my form of rebellion somehow, is like, that's cool. You guys are music. I'm going to do this. But for me, I think deep down, I always knew performing to me is all the same place. There is no category. I love being able to define myself as a comedian. It feels very cool, but I'm all of those things. I think it's just it's just easier to say.
You're so much more than that now, and of course it remains at the root of all of it. And just in the same way, Beyoncé will always be a songwriter and a performer at the heart of what she is, but she's so much greater than that now. It's the joy of life. You get to express yourself in lots of different ways if you can allow yourself. How did you make it something that felt tangible and not a passion or a hobby or a dream? When did it start to feel like actually there's some definition and some flesh in this experience, and I think I can do something with this?
I really never questioned it. It's a weird extension of what I was doing in my living room and my friends' houses. A couple of times people would say, like, you're really funny. You should. And I was already ahead of it in my fantasy. I sort of knew, like, oh, no, I'll end up there. But there was absolutely no business sense. I remember saying to my dad, I really want to be on Saturday Night Live when I was graduating college. And he said, that's great. What are you going to do for a living till you get there?
Yeah, because they don't pay well.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, it's late night television.
Yeah.
But also, like, you still got to get there. And so I think... At first, I'll be honest, I used to think that it might be a little bit lazy to just do what you've already been doing, but I realized, it's just naturally what comes out. That is what I do. So it wasn't so much that I was relying on old tricks. It was that this is my form of self-expression.
Also, they're not old if no one's seen them. The thing is, you can do them all day.
True.
You can do them all day in your living room, and they can be old to you. But until the people actually decide they work,
that's true. That's really true. I didn't think about it that way. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it does. And listen, I'm a creative person. Of course, I'm beating myself up about like, well, I've been doing this for 20 years in my living room. But like, nobody else knows that.
No one else knows that.
And I also had to have other people say to me, you sing. You're allowed to do that too. You can incorporate that. And I used to think like, no, I don't think I should.
But also, you came from a church where music was revered.
Right.
How do I do it in a way that fits comedy and doesn't look like I'm actually being disrespectful in some capacity?
I agree. And I think also, I never thought of myself as a singer. I think of myself as a musical person. It's very music. Like I said, music is normal. So I sing half the day in conversations. But I don't think I should have a record deal. I just sing. Music is a language that makes sense to my ears, which is perfectly fitting because I have always been infatuated with the idea of musicians and comedians being really the same. And it makes so much sense that musicians revere comedians and comedians revere musicians. They're really the same thing. They're this intangible magic. And you're either really, really like just naturally gifted.
It's a language that you're born with. It's whether you
Yeah.
choose to cultivate it or not is the truth.
Yeah.
I think. But what I love about comedy and about putting yourself on the line rings true for musicians too. There's a sense of vulnerability and courage that's required to present that side of yourself in order to make others feel better or connected.
I mean, and here's another little secret about me. I still am so moved by musicians doing just that there is a sick part of me that's like, maybe I'll do that one day. But my dad's a songwriter, so I'm not gonna be a songwriter. My dad does it. You know what I mean? Like the teenager in me is like, you do that. I'm not gonna.
But
do
isn't
that.
it about the way you define it? Now, not that I'm trying to convince you to make a project or anything, but I'm going to try to convince you a little bit to make a project or something. So, isn't it about the way that you define it? I think when you're young, you define it through the filter of what is successful, what is loved,
Correct.
how it's going to change me.
Yeah.
I think when you get older, I certainly feel this way. I think about, am I going to enjoy it?
Yeah.
Will I get something out of me?
Yeah, and I know for me the answer is absolutely yes. Plus, I do think I'd be far more comfortable in the fuck ups. Whereas in the early days when I did fantasize, like, okay, maybe I will make a record one day, or maybe I will record music that is real music, because I can sing,
Yeah, you can.
but I sing like other people. I've never publicly sung like myself.
But you know where your own voice is?
No, I don't think I do. I really don't think I do. I think that is a terribly fragile place that I'm too afraid to look at, which is why I have not gotten there yet.
Yeah.
And that is something
That's fair, by the way.
Yeah, I've talked about it a lot with my friends who are musicians. Like, you should really record. I was like, I don't know what my voice sounds like. I know I can sing like Prince. I can't sing like Beyoncé, but you know what I mean? I can sing in the style of people. I can imitate. I can do a Tina Turner, whatever. But like, that's not because I'm an impressionist. It's just because that's the way I can express it back.
Okay, Maya, I'm going to ask a question. I hope you still like me after this question, but
Okay.
I can't not ask it. If you don't know necessarily where your voice is right now, you know it's in there.
Yeah, it's in there.
Do you feel the effects of it waiting for you? Does it have some kind of effect on you, the fact that you haven't been able to access it?
Yes, it does call to me. It beckons me for sure. And I do feel like there has been a gradual shedding of what does not serve me anymore as I move on through this life. And I do believe that the years of not giving a fuck are imminent.
The ZFG phase, zero fucks given phase. I love it.
I do too. I think it's a natural process that if we're lucky enough to get there in life, if we're still here, I think it's waiting for us.
And so's your voice. And that's the other thing I've learned as well, because there are all sorts of things I'm discovering about myself as life goes on, right? I'm very, very far from truly knowing where all the little tricks and treats are. But they wait for you, actually quite patiently, if you let them.
Yeah.
It's when you try to force it that your body reacts and goes, there's an ache over here and there's an ache over here.
Absolutely. That's the body talking to you, 100%. Or the brain saying, don't do that.
Yeah, stop.
Just stop.
Just let it go over there.
Yeah.
Just get it over that side and you'll be fine.
Yeah, and we get tired of all the stuff that like just doesn't work. You just get tired of it. I'm like, pass. Like it's like that freedom when you realize you really don't have to go to that party.
You don't have to go to the party anymore.
Oh, so
That's the sixth one. I gotta just keep
nice.
dropping them. It's such a nice feeling. It starts when you become a parent. It started when I became a
Yes.
parent. I'm like, I'm so tired.
It's great.
You'll understand when you have kids.
And it's great because you can hide behind it. You're like, it's not me. God. And then it's my baby.
And then they get older and everyone's like, dude, he's 18. I'm like, yeah, but man, it took it out of me.
But I've been tired for 18
years. Just give me another 18 to get over it.
I'm so tired.
So
also,
good.
and then you know what's fucked up? Then you get to the point where you can't even sleep in if you wanted to.
I know, I can't now. I'm up 6 a.m. every morning now.
And also, like, you guys go. I don't want to go. You go.
I'm working. I'm making a new season of Loot. Sorry, I can't do it.
Sorry, I can't do it. I got to get up.
By the way, it's inspired doing your 73 at the top of the new season.
Oh, did you like that? Oh, my God. It's one of my favorite things.
Hey, action sports hero Tony Hawk. The way you're on the skateboard, just like...
what a little dreamboat that guy is.
He's the best. And he's doing, like, honestly, a pretty substandard ollie on the grass. It's like, that's the best thing about it. It's like the worst trick I've seen Tony Hawk do since he was 12 years old.
He said that day, I believe he had just recovered from like knee surgery. Yes. Truly. Like, I was like, dude, don't do that then.
Yeah.
You don't have to do an ollie. He's like, no, it's good, it's good.
But it wasn't. It was a really average ollie. He would be laughing right now. He'd be like, I know, dude, the knee. I had the knee.
You know what? He could have fooled me. Yeah. Any skate trick. I grew up in Los Angeles. Skating is like, it's more punk than punk.
100%. I used to do it as well until it hurt. Until I really fell and I was like, ah.
Yeah, no.
Like Peter Griffin. Ah.
You will never. Yeah, no. It looks dumb.
I was a social skater after that. I was just like, you know, everyone else was possessed to skate. I was just like hanging out with those who were possessed to skate.
I thought it was very cool. It was all the Venice kids.
They were like suicidal tendencies, and I just had tendencies. You know what I mean? You know,
thoughtful tendencies.
Good time to grow up though in Los Angeles.
Very. I feel like.
Did it feel dangerous?
Definitely that side of town was dangerous. Yeah. And we did things we weren't supposed to do. Like we were young and went to places we weren't supposed to see shows. I remember going to a Fishbone show at the Santa Monica Civic with my girlfriends. It was Fishbone, Public Enemy, and
I know that tour. It was Anthrax?
It might have been. Now that you said that. And
it was.
And I think In Living Color was playing, and like there was a mosh pit, and at one point someone just started getting their head kicked in. Yeah. And I remember being like, I'm a good girl.
Yeah,
I should not be here.
What am I doing?
We used to go to Fishbone and Red Hot Chili Peppers shows all the time because they were local LA. They were, cool, like punky, hot boys.
It's one of the weirdest success stories in music history, the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
They are a weird band.
Well, they were the most fun band to see when I was growing up. Yeah. I mean, I was truly like 15, 16. We would go to the Roxy. It was also like, they were the days where Fishbone, Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, Mary's Danish, and Thelonious Monster were all kind of, and so they would all pair up and do each other's bands. And there was one called Trulio Disgracia.
It's the most
like they were funny.
Late 80s Los Angeles alternative, it was so dreadlocked band name I've heard in a long time.
It was so cool. It was so cool to and in those days, we would just, these ratty little teenage girls, we would just go to all these shows and get pushed around. I would stay away from the mosh pit. I don't care for that kind of angst.
Yeah, you have to have it in you.
That's not for me. I like to jump up and down.
I was never really a fan either. I would go in there and then I would be like, I would mosh to be seen. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as the people I wanted to see me in the mosh going raging had seen me, I'd get out.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I'd be like, yo, that mosh was wild tonight. Wild. And then they'd always go, yeah, man, we lost you. Where'd you go? I was like, dude, I didn't even know. I was just, and I was at the bar watching these guys just
it was all a blur.
Yo, dude, it was just crazy. Like, what about that one song where everyone went fucking crazy? That was just crazy. I was just nowhere near that shit. I was nowhere near that shit.
I was in the bleachers when that guy got his head kicked in. But, I mean, the Chili Peppers thing, the answer is those guys were hot. Yeah. They were so fucking cute.
Dude, I was so fucked up that I thought, Perry Farrell was hot. That's how fucked up I was.
That does feel like early California. That's early Los Angeles to me. It was a little bit of a golden sprinkle magical time being here. LA was very punk to me in those days, and I feel like those glimmers are pretty gone.
It's very industry now, and I'm not mad at it. I was talking to D about this last night. He was like, I love coming out here because I feel like every time I go to a session, someone else might hear a little bit of that session. I get another session, and I think he likes the chess of moving around where everyone's just being creative and doing their thing.
Yeah, and by the way, in Los Angeles, it's so big here. You can still find nooks and crannies, and if something's going on here and it's all mainstream, time, you just go over there. It still exists. Those weird, fun little areas still exist, but you have to know where to find them.
There's definitely two Los Angeleses still to this day. The one that's bright and sunny and everyone's just paying their sunshine tax out here, and then it gets dark and then the lights come on and they still haven't fixed the lights and modernized them. There's still a dark, weird sepia. They don't really light anything properly. And so there's huge gaps in between the street lights.
Yeah.
And it just, all of a sudden, it gets a little bit quirky and interesting and dark.
It's a little ghosty here.
A little ghosty, right? There's definitely ghosts in this town. People talk about how there's no history here. I feel a lot of history in California.
It's absolutely here. I just, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, because I'm a little ooky woo-woo lady, I don't have ghosts. They don't bother.
You don't have paranormal experiences?
They don't fuck with me.
Can I tell you something? I've never actually copped to this before. Neither have I. And yet I find myself in stories where I feel so out of place that I'm like, well, I was in a hotel once where something felt a bit weird because I'm trying to be in the conversation, but I don't
have it
visited.
So many people get visited and I do believe that the reason I don't is because whoever's looking out for me is like, oh,
she's good.
You would shit yourself.
Yeah, she's good. Leave her.
Just leave her alone.
Leave her alone.
She does not want that.
Yeah, my wife definitely has. And I mean, we were talking about this last night. Everyone had stories and I was like, yeah, cool. I was like...
There's like one hotel I remember I stayed in years and years ago. My friend Rachel Drash has a podcast called Woo Woo, and she was talking about a hotel, and she had a really weird experience. And she's not that person either. And I thought, maybe I'm going to ask her if it's the same hotel because I remember having bad dreams, but that's as far as it went.
But the thing is, people like you and I who don't have significant paranormal experiences, we always have one hotel.
Yeah.
Because I have one hotel as well. I'm like, well, there's a hotel in Liverpool called the Adelphi. You know the Adelphi? That is definitely haunted. But I know because everyone else ran out of their room at 3 a.m. and checked into it.
Well, also that's the thing. I know for a fact that they're telling the truth and they had those experiences. I just don't know why I don't have them. But I'm not.
Long may it continue.
I'm not mad at it.
And then you have friends who are like, oh, I love my house. It's haunted. I'm like, you're just weird to me.
You don't need that.
I don't need that in my life.
No, get out. Get out. Just get out.
Wait. Get out.
Get the fuck out. Seriously, get out.
Seriously, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
This is my house. Could you please get the fuck out?
Well, that's probably why they're there. They're like, I live here.
Yeah.
I was here first. Go.
Who wants to be caught in the drywall of the spiritual realm?
But you know what's messed up? What if, since we don't understand any of the spiritual realm, really, what if we're the ghosts and they're like, what the hell are you doing here?
I've thought about this.
Get out.
Do you know why I've thought about this? And this is not to bum you out. This is actually, I'm totally cool with this and everything is good in my life and it's the order of things. But my mum has pretty significant bout of dementia and she's definitely in that place now. And so the conversations are just like scattered, very tough to stick to. And I had this realization the other day when I was talking to her, and the conversations she'll be like, look at that. Oh, that's a fat little bird. Hello, fat little bird. And there's no fat bird on the ground. And I'm like, that is a fat little bird, Mum. There's no bird on the ground. I suddenly had this realization that what if she's there going, but not being able to communicate, you've always been a fucking bullshitter. I know you can't. I can't see the fucking bird. Why would you see the fucking bird? And then actually somewhere she's kind of quietly judging me, going, why are you even pretending to keep up with me here?
She's testing you.
She's testing me because she's somewhere that I can't get to and maybe I'm the one who's like lost the plot.
I love the idea that there is something else that we may not know. Can't you just tell me? I just want to know. Just tell me now. Like I've done my time. Now I want to know.
Please tell me now.
Yeah, please.
Is there something I should know?
Ta-la-la-la.
Ta-la-la-la. We're so happy that Lou is back. I loved the first season. I thought you walked that line between making a point and making it funny really, really well. It's
nice to laugh at, there's a lot of wealth in the world, and it's so fun to have fun with how big it is. It is the magical quality of the show, and I love that. But it's also nice to try to ground it and try to bring it into reality because nobody lives like that.
And there's real moments in there where you take a beat, you take a breath, like great comedy does, and you allow us as viewers and fans of the show to just think for a second and just stop laughing for a second and go, oh yeah. That's right. It's funny because it's true.
Yeah, that's what I love about the show, and that it's actually trying to be human through all of the ridiculousness.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way to connect. And I just don't think I could have played like a total asshole, like just an out of touch jerk.
Yeah.
She had to have some sort of human soul that you could relate to.
Molly is a good person deep down.
I like Molly.
But,
I think she is.
Unfortunately, when you have means to that extent, I mean, that's why the opening of season 2 is so good, where she's like, I just downsized. It's like, how many pools you got? Just the 5.
Just the 5.
Just the 5. See, I'm trying.
She's trying.
I'm trying out here.
And she's open. She's open to interpretation. She's open to trying to learn along the way, I think.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this. How do you process feedback when you make a show like this? How open are you to what people say? Because there's the opportunity to receive that all the time. But at the same time, you have to try to give yourself the space to create something in a private place so that
For sure.
you realize the vision. How do you sort of adapt to that time now, and how do you utilize that, whether it's complimentary feedback, critical feedback, or anything of that nature? Do you use it, and if so, how does it help or hinder?
I mean, I'm usually in agreement with criticism because I'm always criticizing. I'm always looking at what could be better, what could we make funnier, what could we make better the next time. But I definitely don't surround myself in the criticism. I'm so hard on myself already. Like there's no room for anybody else.
I've done all that. Yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy that's just so hard on myself. I try to be nice to myself. I think what's been interesting too is since COVID began, people have complimented me more, of saying like, thank you for making comedy. I really needed it, which wasn't really always the norm. And so that's been an interesting thing to hear. But it's back to what I was saying about creating in a time where there's so much criticism. I find it incredibly difficult. And I find it personally more just in being myself far more than my comedy. I feel like people want to take a soundbite and create problems. And that's become a business.
Yeah.
And it's so ugly and it's so not at all my life. It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So it just makes you kind of shy away from wanting to put yourself out there.
Well, the internet will do what the internet will do.
Exactly. And so that's a place I really don't, I stay away from that. I don't really want to participate in that game because it's just not. It's not my reality. It's not my and it's like that saying of like what you think of me is not my business.
Yeah. I love that saying.
It's great, and it's really hard to remind yourself of, but it's true. But I do still like. I don't think I would be creating the things I created on Saturday Night Live if I worked there today.
Well, that was probably that's the most heady environment you could put yourself in there, because I feel like the next day, one skit rises and falls, and all of a sudden it's the only thing anyone's talking about.
And people didn't have access to the show in the way that they do now when I was on it. People weren't watching it from their phones the next day in just one sketch instead of watching the entire show. You would watch in its entirety.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do the best I can to stay out of other people's opinions
of yourself.
Me.
Yeah, no, it's good sage advice.
Honey, I don't need it.
Yeah. Is it like? And I know we're running out of time. It's a shame. It's just been. It's been the fastest 55 minutes of
See,
my
Elton
year.
was right. You're great.
Oh, thanks, Maya.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's why he likes you. If you were like kind of milquetoast, like boring guy.
Now you're quoting Helmet? We're just in all the 90s
just
shit.
milquetoast. I just feel like, yeah, you're exciting to him. It's someone that speaks his language. So I'm just going to continue. I've never met Elton John in my life.
I can only work with the people I can work with.
Exactly.
This has been great. I want to kind of finish our conversation talking about chemistry.
Yes.
Because I think in comedy in particular, you sort of need something generally to kind of, or someone to bounce off. It's better when there's a few of you, and SNL is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
A chosen family that I'm sure still feels that way.
Yeah.
Because of what you went through in your era, right?
Yeah.
What have you learned about great chemistry? What have you learned when it comes to casting somebody on loot, being a part of that process, or walking on set and someone else has cast this and figuring out, how do I make sure that this is believable on screen?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things you've learned about creating great chemistry?
It's not fabricatable. You cannot fabricate it. It is. So it's really lucky to spark that chemistry with someone. I think the big fun and the big cheat in knowing someone all those years and having them be chosen family is that you know exactly what that chemistry is. And it's like being with an old friend. You just pick up where you left off 20 years ago. And it's the exact same conversation or it's the same tone. And so when I work with people in that way, Nat Faxon and I have known each other since our 20s.
Yeah.
And you know that you're going to be setting each other up for success. That's what makes things funnier to me, is that I know that if I guess it's kind of like a Shaq and Kobe vibe. Like, that if I'm passing it to you, it's for you to score. And so that, I think, is what's exciting about it, is that if I say this like little fun thing, it's going to give you something to play off of.
So I know hierarchies are difficult, especially in your business, because everyone wants to stay on the right side of the process. And it's important that no one shows up to set and goes, I was your third favorite person to work with. But I think if we're talking about specifics and chemistry, I think it's a safe place to at least ask the question. You can swerve by all means. That who is somebody, or who is the person that whenever you show up on set in a sort of returning capacity, that it just is an unspoken, very easy thing?
Well, I mean, my person of choice over the years that I've worked, I mean, Fred Armisen and I might as well have the same mother. I think we were separated at birth. We just came out loving the same things. We also speak music, so we don't really have to explain anything to each other.
Comedy's Jack Antonoff. Jack Antonoff is music's Fred Armisen. I always think that those are just
right.
almost
I think
the same
he said
person.
that about himself. I think he said that and Andy Samberg or something like that.
Right.
He is all of those things, isn't he? But I never, ever have to, sometimes I'll just get a text from Fred and it's just like, almond milk lattes and then a question mark. I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I love that we do not have to explain ourselves to each other. That's someone that I saw before he came to the show, and I knew I'm going to have a special time performing with that person. Yeah, and also like I just want to play with that person. I just want to do, it's the creative excitement, the inspiration. Like we used to do a warm up for the show before when the audience is piling in. We used to sing a song and get the crowd going and stuff. And like you just know that was fun to do. And I feel like Fred and I still have more projects in the can for ourselves. We don't know what they are, but
can I give you a compliment as we exit the door?
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah, of course. Well, no. No, I'm British.
I'm very British.
I'm British, and I'm in a successful 80s band.
I'm British, and I'm half Jewish.
There you go. I would like to say that you strike me as someone, having met you now for the first time, who has just a very, very sort of young... I used to hate the term old soul when I was a kid, because I was like, that just means you're going to dump your shit on me.
Yeah, yeah.
You're such an old soul. Oh, yeah? Is that what you're telling me about the problems in your marriage and I'm 12 years old? That's fucking great. Thanks a lot. I love being an old soul. This
like, 13 going on 40.
I only say that because what I'm about to say might sound weird, but you have a young soul. And I think that what you do, following your heart and following your love of what you do, the passion for what you do and immersing yourself in it, seems to keep it really young and open. And
that's so nice.
It's really amazing to be
That's
around.
A beautiful compliment. Thank you. I feel like sometimes we can stray from remembering why we're doing what we're doing. And I mean, my husband is that person too. I feel like he just lives and dies by what he creates. And I feel like he's not really interested in what anybody else is doing, because it's so important to do exactly what motivates him. And it's very inspiring to be around. And
I can imagine.
It does help me redirect sometimes, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
If there's no reason, or if it doesn't thrill me, or if it's not coming from a place of authenticity, why are we doing this? And it's a really beautiful thing to watch. So I do commend him for that. But it's really him and my parents, honestly. I really feel like I got the best instruction.
What a great house for music too, because I know PTA loves his music.
He loves his music.
I mean, the way he uses music in his films is so phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll never forget watching Boogie Nights for the first time and being like, that is a masterclass in how you actually put
Me
music
too.
through
I
it.
didn't know him in those days, so I could just watch it as a fan, and I felt the same way. Same with Magnolia, which was an ear hole extravaganza.
Yeah, and also like, wow, what a human film! My God,
Yeah.
I mean, to use Amy in that film the way he did was just like, that's one of the most affecting moments of music and cinema I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I also think that music, some of it came before the movie.
It did,
and
it did.
came within and writing and
But
all
it
just.
feels like she just wrote it for that moment. I mean, but still, one of the greatest things he ever gave us was, "You got the touch."
I know.
And this is just John C. Reilly, like just running on the spot, like just like doing the running dance, like, oh, this is so good. You're crushing it. You're crushing it.
It's perfect.
And the
isn't
engineer's
it?
just like, oh my God, how long has this session got to go?
Oh my God, Michael Penn. It's perfect.
Perfect. So was this. One of my favorite conversations I've ever had. Thank you so much.
Man, what a thrill. Thank you. This was lovely.